So this is my first time doing this kind of video. We're going to do a what I cooked this week video. I figure since I work from home, I'm cooking all the time, I would bring you guys in the kitchen with me. I love watching these kind of videos, so I hope that you guys enjoy them. Let me know in the comments. First up, we have a steak quesadilla. So I got these ingredients from Trader Joe's. The corn and the carne asada meat I got from Trader Joe's. And this was our first time trying them. So first of all, I opened up the meat and put it in a warmed skillet. So these were like already cut into kind of like thin sliced beef, like pieces. So like almost like flat iron steak. So I thought I'll cook it in the skillet, get a good sear on it. And that was my plan of attack. So you see me here, I'm just pulling all the little pieces apart. I didn't know how this was. I didn't know if it was in like a big chunk or if it was in sliced pieces. I had never bought this before. It actually been in my freezer for a while, so I was like, let me pull this out and cook this up and see if we like it. And so I just really wanted to get a nice sear on it, but it was very, very juicy. Even though my skillet was really, really hot, I just wasn't getting the sear that I really, really wanted on it. Um, so as you can see, I am just letting that trying to let that cook and get a good sear while I open up the corn. Spoiler alert, we did not care for this corn. So I don't know what it was about it. You cooked it in in a pan with, and it had like all these like seasonings and stuff mixed in with it. It's supposed to be like a street corn. We were not a fan. We like the kind that you can get from Costco much better. If you have a kind that you really like, or if you make a homemade street corn recipe, then drop it down below because we love street corn and we were just not feeling this one at all. As you can see, my meat is just bubbling away and it was just so juicy. I wasn't getting what I wanted out of it. So I was like, let me throw it on my little grill over here. So this is like a panini press and a griddle. So you can like flip these little things over and it's flat on one side, or you can have it on this side, which has like the grill part of it. So I was like, let me see if I can get a nicer sear on this thing. I had used this thing a ton, literally. I pull it out all the time. You can open it all the way up and you can make like pancakes. It's like a true griddle. So you can make like pancakes and eggs and stuff like that. So I use it for pancakes all the time. And then I just use it to make like grilled burritos and all kinds of things all the time. And I use it a couple of times in this video. So for these quesadillas, I'm literally keeping it super simple. We're putting tortilla down with some cheese, and then we're throwing the steak on it because I put like some stuff on the side, like guacamole and sour cream and stuff like that on the side. And my husband is literally just like a meat and potatoes kind of guy. He doesn't like a whole lot of extra stuff on it. If it was just me, I would be putting like peppers and onions and things. But I just use a Mexican blend cheese here. And then I am just getting myself ready for this meat to be done and hoping that it has a nice sear on it. Here you will see me on the struggle bus for cutting this meat. I know you're supposed to cut against the grain, so I was attempting to do that, and you'll just see like I was trying to hold it down with the tongs and cut it with a knife, and then I said, why am I trying to do this? And I straight up pulled out the kitchen shears so that I could get little bite-sized pieces because I did not want to put huge chunks on our quesadillas. And here's where I said, work smarter, not harder. Girl, what are you doing? Get the scissors out. And I just went to town chopping these bad boys up. And then you'll see I'm going to just spread this out across the tortilla and that cheese, fold it up, and I'm going to throw it back on that griddle and get them nice and melty and get a nice sear on the outside. I did go ahead and put some additional cheese on top of the meat just to make it stick together a little better. And who doesn't like a little bit more cheese? I mean, you can't ever have too much, right? I went ahead and used up all of the tortillas and the meat I had to just make some extra ones. I was only cooking for me and Gotham this day because this was for lunch. And then I just got out my little pizza cutter so that I could easily cut these into little bite-sized triangles. But yeah, we had some of these left over and we heated them up later on, and then I saved some for my brother as well. Like I said, just super simple. Overall, we really liked these. We liked the meat a lot. Next time, I would definitely just go straight to cooking it on a grill and not try to get that sear in the pan. But you could also do it in the air fryer. I think that would be nice too. But it had a good flavor. Other than the corn, this was a hit. Next up, you guys know I have been in my sourdough era. If you've been watching the vlogs, you know I have been trying my hand at making sourdough, and I wanted to use some of my homemade sourdough bread. So here is what I made for lunch. I just made some turkey sandwiches. It's nothing crazy, but again, I pulled out that panini press to make these, and they were super, super yummy. So I keep my sourdough bread already sliced and in the freezer. This is my jalapeno cheddar bread. We absolutely love this. What I do is I just pull out a couple of pieces and I put them in the toaster to defrost them. They do get a little bit toasty sometimes, but most of it's just to defrost them, and then they're nice and soft when they come out of the toaster. So I'm just gathering up all the ingredients I plan to put on this sandwich. This turkey was super yummy. This was a Cajun style turkey. I think I got it from Publix. It's already sliced for you. Some provolone, and those are my homemade canned pickles from cucumbers I grew in my garden. I know I am like basically a homesteader. So like I said, that turkey was already sliced up really nicely. It was a good thickness. So here I am just slicing up a tomato. Again, this is for my sandwich. My husband prefers it with nothing other than cheese and meat. But these were also tomatoes I grew in my garden. I know you're gonna hear me say that as much as possible because I'm like hella proud of myself this year. Especially since I had a baby, I was like, I'm never gonna get anything done in this garden and it's just gonna be a complete fail. But it wasn't. So I'm super proud. So here is the bread out of the toaster, nice and defrosted. And I'm just going to throw some mayonnaise on these and then get them all stacked up with the cheese and everything. I don't put any of the toppings like lettuce, tomato, pickle on there because I'm really weird about my like that kind of stuff being warm. That is like one thing I'm just not a fan of. I don't like warm lettuce. So I am just going to make them on the panini press with just the meat and the cheese and some mayonnaise. And then I put the toppings on the side so that I can add them onto my sandwich as I am eating it. My husband likes a pretty good amount of mayonnaise and he likes a lot of meat. So I went ahead and put 3 slices of turkey on his, and I think I did 2.5 slices of provolone cheese. I just tore it in half so that it wasn't going to make a crazy mess on the griddle once I put it on there. But once I get all of this situated, no, I just used 2 pieces, my bad. Then I'm going to just bake the sandwich and put some butter on the outside. If you don't have a butter bell, highly, highly recommend. I have been loving mine. It just makes it like so anytime you need to spread spreadable butter, like I keep my butter in the fridge other than my butter bell, so it's hard to like spread it and you have to melt it or like soften it. So if you have a butter bell, you can just take some out and smear it on whatever. So especially with all the bread I have in the house right now, we've been using it a lot. So I just buttered one side, put it on the griddle, and then went ahead and buttered the other side while it was on there. And you can see this is a big boy sandwich. So I was like, oh, is this thing even going to close? But I did get it to work. I went ahead and put both sandwiches on there. I did move them and turn them and flip them to make sure every corner got toasty and delicious. And here they are, all done. These were super duper yummy. I just put them with some plain chips, and then this is my plate. So there's pickles and lettuce and tomato for me to add on there as well. But this jalapeno bread was so good, and this is one of our favorite ways to eat it. The last two were just lunches I made while I was, on my lunch break. This was a dinner that I made. So sometimes we like to have a meatless dinner, and this was one of them. And this is some penne alla vodka. So I absolutely love this dish. It's so quick and easy to throw together. And I have made it probably 4 or 5 times since this video. So I just melted a couple of tablespoons of butter in the bottom of that pan. I'm throwing in a whole onion chopped. And I like to cook my onions down quite a bit because my family is not a huge onion fan. So if I cook them down, they don't notice as much. I am adding a couple of forkfuls of minced garlic. I like to keep this on hand for when I don't have fresh garlic. I do keep the peeled garlic that you can get from Costco, like the big bags that I keep it in my freezer and try to use that a lot. But this minced garlic is just so convenient to have. And I use it in a ton of recipes. So I'm just letting those cook down. And then I decided, you know what? I have some mushrooms in the fridge that really need to be used as well. So I dumped those in there as well. You see me adding, I'm going to add some salt and some pepper to this to just get out a lot of that moisture and get those cooking down as well. And we love mushrooms. Would put them in absolutely everything if I could. We eat a ton of them, and they're so good in this dish, but we add them to a ton of pasta dishes. We like them in our Alfredo, we like them in red sauce, we like them in this Alfredo penne alla vodka sauce. We just love mushrooms in every kind of pasta. So I am adding quite a bit of seasoning here just because we have not seasoned as of yet, and I like to season every layer. Now I am adding in the rest of the seasoning. So I added some red pepper flakes for some heat, and then that was some Italian seasoning as well. So I'm getting those mixed in, and you can see those onions are getting nice and translucent, and those mushrooms have cooked down a ton. So now we are ready for the next step in the penne alla vodka. So this is a fancier tomato paste than what I am used to using. It's in like a tube. I don't know about you guys, but I'm used to a little can, and which is what I normally have. But they were apparently out of that, so they replaced it with this tube of tomato paste, which was actually really yummy. So I just added the whole tube in there just because I would normally add the whole can of tomato paste if I had the can. And so I'm going to get that really nicely mixed in and let it cook down some. I like to get it really, really well incorporated and cooked down before I add the vodka. I had forgotten to mention that I had put a pot on in the back there to boil, so I was just adding the pasta to the water, to the very, very salted water. You should always salt your pasta water. It makes a huge difference. Here I am adding some Grey Goose. I would not normally use Grey Goose vodka in penne alla vodka because it is expensive. It's nice to drink it, but it's all I had in the house. So I went ahead and added that, and that just really, all the alcohol cooks off of it, so it's not like you're gonna taste any vodka, but it just really brings everything together. It gets anything that's stuck on the bottom of the pan up. So I just like to let that cook out really well. Once that cooks down, I'm going to add my heavy cream. I start off with about a cup of heavy cream, but you'll see I add a little bit more as I get it all mixed in together. You're looking for your consistency and your color. So it should be like a pinkish color at the end of this. And then the consistency should be thick enough to coat your noodles. So if it's just way, way too thick, you can also add some more heavy cream or some pasta water. Keep in mind at this point, you have not added your cheese yet, so you do want it to be a little bit runny, but once you add your cheese, you can see the consistency, and you just want it to be a nice thick sauce. So here I am just stirring it all around, seeing what the consistency is. I'm seeing that it is a little bit runny, so I'm gonna go ahead and add my Parmesan cheese so I can see what the consistency is. I had a little bit left in this jar, so I went ahead and poured the rest of that in, and then I had picked up a whole nother jar of Parmesan cheese to put it in. And it's like the nice flaky kind, which is the kind I prefer for a dish like this. Just a good quality Parmesan cheese. Once you get that all incorporated, you're going to let that cook down and let that cheese get nice and melted so you can see what your actual consistency of your sauce looks like. Now that cheese is all melted and incorporated, I decided it needed a little splash more of heavy cream. And again, this is really, you can taste this along the way and decide if it needs more of anything. I had tasted it and decided that it needed a little bit more red pepper flake because we like some heat to this dish. And then I get all of that incorporated and it's perfect. By this time, you can see everything is nice and rich and orangish pink color. On camera, it looks a little bit more orange, and in person, it looks a little more pink. So I like to go straight from the water into the sauce with my pasta because you get all that starchy goodness into your sauce, which just helps thicken it up a little bit, and it just helps all the pasta get coated with that sauce. The sauce sticks better when it has that starchy goodness on it. Once I got everything nice and incorporated, all the noodles and all the sauce, I did decide that it needed a touch of pasta water. So I turned off the heat on both of my eyes and added a little bit of pasta water that I had set aside just in case I needed some. I added a touch more Parmesan on the very top, and this was my bowl. This was super, super yummy. And like I said, I've made it now with Italian sausage and chicken as well. Delicious. So for this dish, we made some like chicken tostadas and they were so, so yummy. So I've been wanting to pull out my Instant Pot and use it a little bit more. So for this dish, I decided to do that. I grabbed out the Instant Pot. I put some boneless, skinless chicken breasts in there with some diced green chilies and a whole jar of salsa verde. I love this green salsa. It is so yummy and gives such a good flavor to the meat. But y'all know that was not the only seasoning I was gonna add. As you can see, I went and raided the spice cabinet for this dish. So I put a little bit of garlic powder, some onion powder, some Slap Your Mama, which I put on like absolutely everything, and then just some salt and pepper. After I got it seasoned the way I wanted, I went ahead and set it on high for 10 minutes and let it go. While my chicken was cooking, I went ahead and diced up a little bit of lettuce and some tomatoes and onions because I knew I wanted that freshness on top of my tostadas. And then I also got a pan on the stove with some vegetable oil, just enough to coat the bottom of the pan. And because I knew I wanted to fry up some corn tortillas for these tostadas. And normally I would just buy the ones that are already like crunchy and hard and fried, but I had some corn tortillas that I really wanted to use, and I had never done this before myself, so I wanted to give it a try. Here is my chicken out of the Instant Pot. As you can see, it is so like juicy and done and easy to pull apart. So I just took 2 forks and shredded that up really good. And then I put it back into the sauce so that could sit in there in the warm sauce and get all that flavor all through it while I was cooking up my tortillas. Now that my oil is nice and hot, I'm going to throw in some of the corn tortillas. I would have loved to have been able to put more than one at a time, but I didn't trust myself with the size of this pan and the fact that I have never done that before and cooked tortillas this way before. I was just wanted to keep it controlled one at a time. I did flip this quite a lot. Next time I probably would just leave it on one side longer, but I was so terrified that they were going to burn and I did not want that to happen. So I'm flipping it a couple of times. They turn out fine, they're delicious, but next time I would probably leave them and let them cook on one side longer and then flip them. When I'm happy with how they're looking and the nice bubbles, I went ahead and pulled it out of the oil and put it on a paper towel to drain. And as you can see, with the magic of editing, we are now all done with our tortillas. I just moved that skillet off the eye to cool, and I'll take care of that grease later. Doesn't that chicken look so good? Now that I'm looking at it, I really want to make it again. I did pull out this queso that I get from Costco in this big tub, and got that nice and warm in the microwave. And then I also pulled out a jar of salsa. This chicken was really, really flavorful. If you didn't want to add these extras, you would not have to at all. These were delicious just the way they were, but I had to be a little extra and add some extra toppings. I also added some shredded Mexican blend cheese on mine. And then, I had to put all the things. So I had to put some lettuce and some onion and some tomato on mine. And these were so good. Like I said, we loved these. I had a ton of the leftover chicken left. So we actually had them again the next day. And I added corn and black beans to them the next day. And they were amazing. Last but not least, we have Friday night's dinner. So I get my niece on Fridays every Friday night, and she spends the night and stays till Saturday. So I wanted to make something kid friendly, and kid friendly always is pizza, right? This is some of my sourdough discard pizza dough. So I made this in a previous, like I talked about making it in a previous vlog, and I made up, I think, 4 pizza crusts, and I just put them in the freezer. And then when I know I'm going to make pizza, like the day before I was going to cook this, I went ahead and pulled those out of the freezer and put them in the fridge and let them thaw. And then when I know I'm going to cook, like a couple hours before, I go ahead and pull them out and let them get to room temperature so they're a little bit easier to work with and a little bit easier to spread. So here I am just spreading out 2 pizza crusts on some baking sheets while I let my oven preheat. I think I cooked these at 400, I believe. And then I like to pre-bake my pizza crust. So you'll see I'll put them in there with nothing on them, cook them for about 8 minutes, pull them out, and put the toppings on. I knew I wanted like a garlicky crust. So here I am mixing up together some olive oil, some Italian seasoning, and a whole bunch of garlic powder because I'm going to, once those come out of the oven, I'm going to brush that around the edges to get a nice, yummy crust. So here my pizzas have been cooked for about 8 minutes. You can see that they have a nice golden color to them. I just took a silicone brush and brushed that olive oil mixture on the edges and made sure I got all of that nice and flavorful. And we love Rayo's sauce. Like I get it at Costco in the 2 jars of the big ones, because we use it a ton. And my brother is a condiment king. Like he loves condiments on absolutely everything. Like half of our fridge is condiments because of him. And he will eat this marinara sauce on absolutely everything. I make Alfredo, he puts marinara sauce on it. I mean, literally everything he puts this marinara sauce on. So I pretty much pick it up every time I'm at Costco. So I'm just making sure that there's quite a bit of sauce on this because we are a saucy pizza kind of family. And so I'm just spreading it out and getting all the crust nice and covered. My niece had requested extra, extra cheesy pizza this night. So I grabbed out the big bag of mozzarella and I'm just spreading that out. And then I also pulled out some pepperoni. And then I had cooked up some breakfast sausage earlier in the day for another meal I was cooking for an omelet. And so when I was cooking that, I went ahead and just cooked up the whole roll of sausage because I knew we were going to make pizza later that day. And I knew that that would be a great addition to our pizza. So I'm just spreading out the cheese and then you'll see me put the rest of the toppings on. I also added a little bit of Parmesan cheese on these as well as the mozzarella before I put this sausage on. But I tried to make sure that it was an even layer of sausage and pepperoni. So here are the pizzas all ready to go in the oven. So I'm about to pop them back in for 8 to 10 more minutes. And then you'll see they're nice and golden and bubbly and delicious. The whole fam loved this pizza. They loved the dough. This was my first time making sourdough discard dough. Definitely will do it again.